What's going on, everyone? How are we all doing tonight? Just getting something set up here. There we go. Why is the music just... Oh, you know what? Hold on, we're gonna do this one. Start that over. Hey, there we go. Perfect. Show perfect. All right, so how we all doing tonight? As it is Monday evening, this is one of my normal streaming nights, but has kind of been a mishmash Mondays, if you will. It started out as my Calendar's Dungeon at the beginning of the year, but I am taking a break from that. So we are gonna kind of do some other things here and there over the next few weeks. And what we're doing tonight is something that we did kind of similarly last week, where we sat down and answered some questions that the members of my Discord had, also some questions that I found online, and wanted to offer my opinion and comments on them. So we're gonna do something very similar to that tonight, but what we are going to start on is the fact that the D&D Beyond survey came out for the Paladin and Druid UA. So that's going to be the first thing that we talk about tonight. I just gotta bring these up. There we go. I don't know why that's... Hold on. This, that, this, that, and then... Oh, that was weird. All right, well, it's fine. Got it resolved. But yeah, like I said, we are going to be doing the survey for the D&D Beyond Druid and Paladin UA, and then we are going to be answering some questions from the community, and depending on if we have time, maybe some that those ones that I found online that are just more generic in general. So jumping into the first bit, we'll start looking at the survey. Now, if you remember, we did do a video on this where we talked about the Druid and the Paladin, and I want to address a couple things. When we first talked about this, I was very up on the Druid. You know, looking through it, it was very different from the original Druid. As you might remember, they have this new ability called Channel Nature, which is kind of like a channel divinity, and that is where they get their wild shape now. So it's, you know, a different kind of use case, whereas before wild shape was just, you know, you had two uses of it, and that was pretty much it. And then I believe that you got more uses of it as you went along. Let me just double check something here about that. Kelf bitch is about the Druid stream. Buddy, you might not be too wrong. All right, yeah, so I believe it was just you can use it twice. Yeah, it was just that you can use it twice, but now it's based off of your Channel Nature ability, which you can use that twice. So it's still basically the same, but you now have other abilities that tie into this. So we're going to talk about this a little bit as we go through the survey. So I actually already went through it. I kind of took a note from one of the YouTubers I follow, Ted from Nerd Immersion. I always mix up his name, and I've actually said to him before, I accidentally call him Ned from Turd Immersion, and it's Ted from Nerd Immersion. But I'm taking a page from his book, and we are going to be just going through what I already put in. So I already filled out the survey. We're going to be going through and, you know, just kind of going over my response. You don't have to sit here and, you know, watch me type up my responses. So, would you like to rate the material presented in Druid and Paladin? Yes, of course. What was the first edition you played? Technically, I played 3.5 years ago one time, but 5th edition is the one that got me into the game, and that's the one that I consider my first one. Yes, no spoilers about the movie. So, if you are curious, I have seen the movie, so has Glenn and Stacy in the chat. We will not discuss spoilers in here, so unless I do a spoiler stream, we'll not talk about spoilers. All right, so which sections are we interested in? I selected everything because I wanted to have a chance to review everything that I could. Have you played a Druid in 5th edition before this Unearthed Arcana? So no talk about the Druid. Yeah, well, we're not going to bitch about that Druid. We're going to bitch about this Druid. Have you played a Druid character in 5th edition before this Unearthed Arcana? Yes, I have. He was a Warforged Shepherd Druid named Shepherd. Have you play tested the Druid class? I have not. How satisfied overall? I am dissatisfied. All right, so creating a Druid, that's basically the same thing as it was, so it's whatever, satisfied. Multi-classing, it's whatever. Channel Nature, I actually like Channel Nature. I like having it tie into that Cleric, Paladin, Druid thing, the 3 priests. I think that's a cool name of it, and that you get 1 use back on a short rest, all uses back on a long rest. I do like that. What I don't like is the wild shape ability, and it gives us an option for that later, so we'll get into that. Level 1 Druidic. This is basically the same thing as it was before. It's just the Druidic language. It's much like Thieves Can't. Thieves Can't what? Thieves can't speak right. So Druidic is what it is. It's even the same ability of an investigation check to decipher it. Spellcasting is the same. It's still a prepared caster, so it's exactly like it was in 5e. Nature's Aid. So this is 2 other ways to use your channel nature. One is to create an area of healing, and one is to be able to cast Find Familiar. Now, here's the reason why I do like this ability, but and I have to put it in my response because I actually forgot to put this note. I like this ability of Nature's Aid. I wish this was not tied to Channel Nature. And the reason is because as a Druid, I played that class because I wanted to change into animals. And if my ability to change into animals is stymied by my desire to cast Find Familiar without material components and using my Channel Nature, that takes away my desire to use the Wild Companion feature or to use Healing Blossoms. Now, it does get a little bit better at 15th level, where when you use Wild Shape, it allows you to use Healing Blossoms as part of the same action. But that is 13 levels later. I have been running a campaign for 2.5 years, and those players are only level 10. They would not even, a Druid in my campaign would not even get this for another 5 levels. So it takes away, in my opinion, your desire to want to use this. So I wanted to express that point because I need to add that down into here. So let me just type that in real fast. The fact that nature's aid is tied to channel nature makes it less desirable. Nope. What's up, Nacho Dad? How you doing tonight? All right, so there we go. I just had to put that in because I thought of that after I got to this point. All right, so keep going from there. 5th level, Might of the Land, dissatisfied on that. Aquatic form, an aerial form, and tiny critter, dissatisfied on those. So I'm going to move that one to very dissatisfied. And then alternating forms, I actually liked alternating forms. The ability to switch in and out of your wild shape as a bonus action without using it, without using up more uses. That's very cool. Wild Resurgence, getting that use of Healing Blossoms with a wild shape is very cool. Beast spells is pretty much the same as it was before. The Archdruid got nerfed because you no longer get an unlimited use of wild shape. So I was not happy with that, and I don't care about epic boons. I don't look at them. I don't even know what they have because I don't think I will ever have a group get to level 20 because it is boring, and it is boring for the players at that point because there's no challenges that can be put before the players at level 20 that are reasonable, and it makes it very hard to balance anything without throwing literal gods and demigods at the players. And that's my opinion. Other people can have their own. I don't like 20th level adventures. All right, so wild shapes, animal of the land, sea, and sky, very dissatisfied once I really sat down with them. I have opinions about this, and I will go over it here in a second. So my response that I put was, as many community members have already voiced their opinions on this, I too have turned to feel that the rework of Wild Shape is too limited in scope and takes away some of the best factors that came into play when playing a druid. Beyond moving the access to aquatic and aerial forms to later in the class, the exclusion of climb speeds, multi-attacks, and tiny size from the land forms until 5th and 11th level is just plain wrong. Additionally, the fact that the Archdruid lost the ability to have unlimited wild shape seems pedantic. They're an Archdruid. In old lore, it was that only one existed, and they were the only one through Trials of Combat and Will. So why wouldn't they be able to hold their form indefinitely? The fact that nature's aid is tied to channel nature makes it less desirable to use, considering the main selling point of being a druid is the wild shape ability, and sacrificing the uses of wild shape for healing or companion doesn't seem like something most people would want to do. So, how satisfied are you with the elements of the Circle of the Moon subclass? After a reread, they suck. They do. So, like I put here, dissatisfied with pretty much everything except 1,000 forms, but that's because 1,000 forms is basically the same as it was in the in 5th edition. You lose access to better aspects of the monster stat list and higher CR creatures. You lose the ability of your attacks to be magical, except until you reach 10th level and only a portion of your damage is magical. Becoming actual elementals is far more appealing than simply becoming a minor elemental variant of your older forms. And Elemental Strike does not account for the abilities you gained in the old Elemental Wild Shape. So to remind everyone, Elemental Wild Shape previously was that you became an air elemental, of earth, fire, water elemental. You became the actual thing. So that meant that you got access to those abilities, such as with the fire elemental, you got the ability to touch a creature and light it on fire, create light and an area around you, and to have your fire form. Plus, you also had a much higher hit point pool. Now it's just, oh, you are your same thing, but now you're like a fire form of it. You could always reflavor what your fire, what your elemental looked like. Oh, I'm a water elemental, but I look like a wolf and I'm like an ice wolf. Or I'm a fire elemental, but I look like a horse, so I'm like Rapidash from Pokemon. You could always reflavor it, but now it's like you're also losing some of the best parts of it. Like I said, 1,000 forms basically stayed the same. You just get access to Ultra Self. And it is what it is. Yeah, ooh, Pokemon. Who'd ever want that? All right. So, question 11, have you played a Paladin in 5th edition before? Yes, I have. His name was Bastion, and he was a Warforged Redemption Paladin. I also made plenty of other Paladins in time, and I also played one whose name escapes me. What the fuck was his name? Why can't I remember him? Where the fuck is he? Monty Sanguine, there he is. Oath of Conquest, Fallen Azamar, Oath of Conquest Paladin. So I have played my fair share of Paladins. Have I play tested this one? I have not. And how do I feel about it? I'm overall satisfied with it. Lay on Hands and spellcasting are pretty much the same as they were in previous editions. The Divine Smite does kind of suck now. As much as I am happy that you can use it with ranged weapons, the fact that you can only use it once per turn and can't use it when you cast a spell, that sucks. Fighting style is whatever, it's the same thing. Channel Divinity is pretty much the same thing. You just don't get turn undead, but I would be okay if that just becomes a cleric thing, as long as the clerics don't get paladin smites now. I think that would be a good balance. So extra attack, you know, great, whatever. Faithful Steed, I love the new Find Steed ability and the fact that it like really plays into being a knight on horseback. So, Order of Protection, you seemingly changed your mind on the, yes. So before I was all about, it was like, oh yeah, it's cool because it's all this flavor, and it was like, you know, you can make it look however you want and you can have it be whatever you want instead of having to like know that creature. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to know what the creature looks like to be able to do it as flavor anyway. So does it change anything? I mean, it's kind of in the same idea of like, okay, well, I want to turn into a possum. Okay, well, there's no possum stat block, so you could turn into a rat. And it's like, okay, cool, I'll use the rat stat block. You know, and I get, you know, I watched Jeremy Crawford's video about like the whole tiny thing, and you're getting more hit points and a better AC, so you're going to survive longer. And so tiny I think it just needs a rework. I think there needs to be a stat block that is what it is, and give us the ability to give it options. Like, And I put that in there, and we'll get to that towards the end. I've never managed to make horse riding work in D&D. What do you mean, Nacho? I'm curious about what you're referring to. And while you type out your answer, I will continue. So, Aura of Protection, Abjure Foes, Radiant Strikes, Aura of Courage, Restoring Touch, and Aura Expansion and Divine Conduit are all fine. I don't have any issues with them. They are what they are. My comments to all of this, though, was let us smite more than once and don't limit it behind spellcasting. Divine Sense being moved to a later level is annoying, but I like that it's now a 10-minute ability instead of just a ping, so that's good. I love the new Find Steed ability. It really sells the idea of being a horseback knight, but I don't like that Divine Smite doesn't have a bonus against undead anymore. That's a big thing. Divine Smite doesn't actually do more damage against undead where it did before. Combat on horses mechanics. Okay, you know what? I can answer that for you very quick. Let me just pull it up. There we go, mounted combat. And the second thing we'll need, okay. Here's how to do mounted combat if any of your players ever decide they want a horse or a mount in general. If your player wants to get onto a mount that is within 5 feet, it costs them half of their movement. If they want to dismount, it costs them half of their, sorry. Oh yeah, that's to knock it prone. Yeah, so, sorry, yeah. Getting onto a mount costs half of your movement. If an effect moves your mount against its will, you must succeed a dex save to avoid falling off of it. And if your mount is knocked prone, you can use your reaction to dismount it and land on your feet. Otherwise, you fall prone. So very simply, you get on with half of your movement, and then you can just get off. I actually don't think there is a penalty for getting off, but it's just you use a reaction to dismount if the thing falls over. In combat, there's 2 options your players can take. Either they can let the mount move on its own, and if they do, you kind of control the mount and where it goes. So intelligent creatures such as dragons will act independently. They have their own, if they have a high enough intelligence, they're gonna do the things that they want to do. If a mount has accepted a rider, such as horses, donkeys, and other creatures, then the initiative of that creature moves to match the player who mounted it. So if my paladin gets onto a horse, and it's his horse, the initiative of that horse becomes the same as the paladin. And you can give it one of 3 options. You can tell it to move, and you can have it either use its action to dash, disengage, or dodge. So your player's movement speed just becomes the mounted creature, or the mount's speed. So if let's say a horse, a draft horse has a speed of 40 feet, that means your paladin now has a speed of 40 feet. And that creature can be commanded as, to be told to dash, disengage, or dodge. The only other thing that comes into play is that anybody that goes up to attack your player, they can either attack the horse or the player. The only time that comes into play is if that player has the mounted combatant feat, which allows them to have subjects hit them instead of the mount. So it's actually very simple. If a player is on a mount, their speed now becomes the mount speed, and they can command the mount to dash, disengage, or dodge. And other than that, the player is just doing their shit. They still have their actions, they still have their bonus actions, they just now have a slightly higher movement speed, and AoEs can now kill that horse. And enemies can kill the horse. Or the mount, whatever it is. So, it's pretty simple. And if somebody falls off of it, or, you know, if somebody jumps off of it, it just kind of does what it does. If someone attacks the mount, then would you need to make a dex save to stay on? So, if your mount is killed, yes, it is falling down, and the player can use the reaction to stay on. Otherwise, you fall prone and are in a space of 5 feet. So let's say that the player has their reaction. Somebody comes up, stabs the horse a few times, horse dies. They can use their reaction to avoid taking any damage or falling prone. If they don't have their reaction and somebody comes up, stabs the horse, they are falling prone and are within 5 feet of it. So that's pretty much it. And then, yeah, like I said, mounted combat, mountain combatant feat. This just allows you to have it allows for the player who's on the mount to have advantage against creatures that are not mounted. It also allows them to force attacks targeted at the mount to hit them instead, so they can kind of redirect up to themselves. And if your mount is subjected to an AoE, where it makes a dex save, and it takes half damage, it takes no damage, because, you know, you're kind of controlling it now. I noticed the emoji. That is from Grammarly. That's not me. It's because I put the words love in it. It's because I put, like, I love the new Fine Steed and stuff like that, but this is, yeah, admiring. So that's all that is. Yeah, believe me, this whole thing, I wish that it wouldn't do that. All right, so back to where we were. As for the Oath of Devotion subclass, it's mostly the same. I like that the Sacred Weapon ability is now a bonus action, which that's good. Before it was a full action, so you kind of had to, you know, burn an action just to use it to get that bonus for that period of time. But now it's a bonus action, so you can light your sword up and then go ham. All right. So, do you play with feats in 5e? Absolutely, I always do. How are you satisfied with the ones that are in here? Yes. Which one of these have I play tested? I haven't play tested any of those. How satisfied are you with the following feats? I love the improved, I like the ability score improvement feat, and I do not care about the epic boons. These are just whatever. Comment on the ASI feat. So I think having the ASI listed as a feat is a better management tool and easier to follow and utilize when leveling up your characters. In the past, it was always, you know, at 4, 8, 12, and 16, you could increase 1 score by 2, 2 scores by 1, or take a feat. Now, it's just take a feat. You can take whatever other feat you want, but there is now a feat called Ability Score Increase that lets you increase 1 score by 2 or 2 scores by 1. So it's a lot simpler now when you're leveling up, which is why the classes are actually now designed that way to show, oh, at 4th, 8th, 12th, and 16th, and 19th, you just get a feat. You get a choice to make at that point. So I like that. I like how that is played out now. Would you rate the following spells? Okay, so I have my notes written somewhere else. Here we go. So, here it is. Okay, Banishing Smite. So the big change that came with Banishing Smite is that previously it was that, you know what, hold on, let me do this. I'm gonna make my life a little bit easier. Maybe I won't. Actually, that would not make my life easier. Let me do it this way. Here we go. All right, so Banishing Smite used to be that when you hit a creature with this attack, if it reduced them to 50 points or fewer, you banished it. Now, it is based on a charisma save. I don't mind that because sometimes creatures have fairly low charisma and they would have a higher hit point pool. So you might not reduce them to 50, but now you can impose disadvantage on charisma saves. You can, you know, do something to affect that, give them negatives and debuffs. So I'm mostly ambivalent, but for the most part, I think it's okay. The one thing that I kind of don't like is it's now specifically aberrations, celestials, elemental, fae, and fiend that return to their home plane. Whereas before, it was simply that if they were native to a different plane, they stay there. So in my opinion, this kind of leaves a little less wiggle room for a DM with rules as written. You know, now it's like, okay, if they're one of these 5, they're gone forever. But, you know, the DM could say, okay, well, they were a construct, and so that means that they can come back, even though maybe they were a Modron, so they come from the plane of Mechanus. So it's like, that doesn't really play into things well. Again, I liked whenever if it's native to this plane, it comes back. Otherwise, it doesn't. But otherwise, I'm okay with it. Blinding Smite was the same. Literally, the only thing that they changed with most of these is that prior, if we look at Blinding Smite, it was concentration up to a minute. Now, it is just 1 minute. It no longer requires concentration. But it is now a spell that you take immediately after hitting a creature. So when you cast that, you don't cast this and then focus on it and then attack. You attack and cast it at the same time, as a bonus action, like right after. So it's basically the same other than that. Find Familiar got a bit of an upgrade in a sense. So the way that this now works is that you can have it look like whatever you want, but it now uses a basic stat block. And unlike the Druid stat blocks that I wasn't too keen on, I actually like how this one is laid out because it does make it stronger as you go along. But I know that the community will be upset and is upset about the fact that they're not going to get like the imp's ability of dark vision, of like the improved dark vision, because you don't get that with this anymore. So there is some pros and cons to it, but I personally like the otherworldly familiar stat block as it is. I also like that you can now use it in combat. You can use your reaction to have it attack, and that's a good use of a reaction. So find Steed. I love the new otherworldly Steed ability, stat block. I like that it has some different, flavors depending on if it's Fae, Fiend, or Celestial. And the only thing that I have a question for Wizards is, because it has points, where was it? Shoot. Where was the 1 point? No. Oh, yeah, here it is. It gains a fly ability if you cast it at 4th level or higher. 4th level or higher is basically the same thing as, you know, we have Find Steed, but then we also have Find Greater Steed, which is a 4th level spell. So this is the one where you get flying creatures like griffins, pegasus, and paratons. And it's basically the same thing, except you get flying creatures. So does this new Find Familiar now count as Find Greater Familiar at 4th level? Like, is Find Greater Steed... no, sorry, not familiar. Is Find Steed now just the one spell, and Find Greater Steed is just going to be written out? I guess we could actually... I never even thought about this. We can look. These are the Druid spells, and... Oh, wait, no, were those the Divine ones? Oh, these are the Divines. Okay, so Find Steed, and there is no Find Greater Steed in here. So maybe Find Greater Steed is gone. And it's just a leveled up, an upcasted version of Find Steed. That's what I'm going to believe until told otherwise. All right, so up next, Glimmering Strike. It's nice to have a Radiant Smite for once. It really seems like something we should have had a while ago. That's all I'm going to say. You know, smites, divine smites of any kind should have some Radiant ability somewhere. Searing Smite, it's the same thing as it was before, again, just with the caveat of the, you know, the whole thing. Spare the Dying, I didn't realize this the first time. Spare the Dying went from shit to OP. So originally, Spare the Dying is one action, instantaneous. You touch a creature that has 0 hit points and they become stable. It has no effects on undead or constructs. So let us look at what stable means. So we're going to pull out the PHB, open the entire book, and we are going to search for stable. Death saving throws. Okay. When you're rolling death saving throws, on your 3rd success, you become stable. Stabilizing a creature. A stable creature does not make death saves anymore, even though it has 0 hit points. It does remain unconscious, and it stops being stable and must start making death saves if it takes any damage. And a stable creature that isn't healed gains 1 hit point after 1d4 hours. Shut up, Glenn. It's a place where they keep horses. I hate you. You know, and you know what the sad part is? When I searched up stable, it's literally the first thing that comes up is the squalid lifestyle of you live in a leaky stable. Ah, damn it. But talking about the death saving aspect. So a stable creature is not up, they're unconscious, they just don't have to make death saves anymore, but they still need healed. Spare the Dying allowed you to make them stable. The new one gives them a hit point. Getting a hit point brings them back up. And if we look at the new dying condition, if you have 0 hit points, if you regain any, the condition ends. So it's not even like a real change of anything. It is just the fact that when you are now down, you can have somebody with the divine or primal spell of Spare the Dying, and that could be certain kind of, you know, it's going to be obviously your clerics, your wizard, your druid. It could also be not wizard. It's your cleric, your paladin, your druid. It's also probably going to be your bard. You could have certain warlocks and sorcerers and wizards taking it. whatever the case may be. You could even take Magic Initiate and grab this. And in my opinion, I think everyone should. If you can cast a cantrip to up somebody, why would you not? It's one action, sure, but it guarantees that you get somebody up one more time. And I've talked about this in the past. I don't know if I've ever said it on stream, but the power of 1 hit point when a player is down is stupid powerful. Okay, when you have a player go down, and the fact that you only need to give them 1 hit point for them to come back up and possibly dish out 20, 30, 40 points of damage, it's crazy. So as long as you have somebody in your party that's able to cast this and is able to stay alive, you can just keep bringing everybody back up and you're never burning a spell slot. That's the key thing. There has been a rule in a lot of D&D spell creation for years that said, do not give a healing cantrip. The abuse is too much. And granted, this has the condition that it has to be a dying creature, but this is so broken. And I kind of love it because of that. I mean, if I was a player, I would love that. If I'm as a DM though, I'm just gonna prepare a lot more AoE spells and I'm gonna take out the healer first. See how the clerics and paladins like that. All right, moving on. Staggering Smite, Thunderous Smite, and Wrathful Smite, they're all the same. They're just like Searing Smite and Blinding Smite. They just have the caveat of you take it after you hit somebody. That's about it. There's really not much to say. I think Wrathful Smite is the only one that allows for concentration, but that's because the creature is continuing to make saves against being frightened. So, and then yeah, basically everything I just said in here. How do I feel about all this stuff? Honestly, this is more the rules glossary things. The only thing that I really want to touch on, I still like the wording of D20 test. You know, instead of saying ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws, just being able to say D20 test, I like that. I like having a simple term that affects all three. The only one that I don't like is the heroic advantage, which this is the same thing as inspiration. This is just inspiration, but they kind of went back to the old system of like, it's just the DM handing it out. I like whenever you roll a nat 1. I put that in here, and the thing that I do want to say is I know in my own games, I run it with nat 20s as well, that you get inspiration. I personally prefer it whenever it's just nat 1. I tried that out with a group and I prefer it that way because I feel that it's failing upwards. And while I said in time, in times past that it's like, you rolled a nat 20 and like you're inspired, okay? It's like you did something great. And so like you have this moment of inspiration. I actually kind of like the idea of failing upward, of like, okay, I rolled a 1, but I'm going to come back better, and I don't know. I kind of like it more when it's just a nat 1. And in all honesty, truthfully, I kind of like Kobold Press's luck system better anyway. I've been thinking more about it. I like that system a lot more anyway. So maybe I'll implement that somewhere along the lines. The long rest, I don't really care about. It's all the same. They just, they're putting in like, certain terms. They did put in about the interrupting the long rest, which I like. The fact that it's 1 hour of walking or any physical exertion, taking damage, casting a spell other than a cantrip, and rolling initiative. So, how satisfied am I about the revised move? I don't really care because it's not really changed. Short rests have not changed. And so here's the final point that I have to make. I like where most of this is going, but the Druid needs a rework. There should be the option to take a pre-existing creature like before, or a generic stat block, but with a list of options and abilities that allow players to customize their wild shape beyond the leveling bonuses. Stuff like climb speeds, pack tactics, multi-attack, keen sense, and so on. That is something that I believe in. I think the Druid needs something very much like what we a system that I saw a while ago. I don't think it was in my Discord. I think it might have been in somebody else's, but a while back I actually gave somebody a link. Here it is, actually. Yes. Okay. So, oh wait, I gotta turn that around. Normal. There we go. Okay. So something like this is what I'm referring to. So this is for the custom lineage, and Wizards actually tried their hand at a custom lineage. So if we look at this, you know, this was put into here. You get to pick your creature type. You get to pick your size. You get to pick your feat. You get a variable trait such as dark vision or proficiency with a skill, and you get a language. So this variable trait is kind of the same idea as what this one is. So this custom lineage is that you choose your ability scores like we normally do now. You choose your type, but you're humanoid, but you determine your appearance. You can pick your size, you have a base walking speed, and then you get your choices of racial traits. So I'm actually gonna open this up in 2 windows so we can look at this. So these are all tier 1 traits, okay? These, you get to pick one of them from this whole list. Yeah, right here, tier 1, or you can pick it from tier 2, 3, or 4. But the first one is the one that you get to pick from this. So something like pack tactics, natural armor, martial prodigy or innate spell, flight, okay? Then you get to pick a second trait, okay? Maybe you pick amphibious, all right? Let's say you want to make somebody who is kind of like a lizard folk, but you want them to be a humanoid flying snake. Okay, so maybe we take flight, we take hungry jaws, because that's a tier 2 trait, and then, I don't know, maybe we take Mask of the Wild so that you can have a higher stealth while in foliage. Maybe you take climb, because snakes do have a climb speed. Maybe you take hold breath. Maybe you want to be something aquatic, okay? Vampiric bite and, I don't know, fury of the small and hold breath. Maybe you're like, or mimicry, okay? Maybe you're some like small little animal human thingy. Something like this, but for the animals, okay? Take the generic abilities that animals get at the levels or at the challenge ratings that a druid can pick from based on the original list. Okay, so if we go into here, we're gonna go to wild shape. We're gonna click this. And this whole, okay, well, actually that's a bad list to look at because that has a bunch of homebrew stuff. So let's just go ahead and clear that. I just want to keep that more official than having all my jazz on there. Okay, so here we go. These are the 75 animals that a level 2 druid can pick from. And what we should do, and I am doing this, I already have this started, I'm just not pulling up my spreadsheet. I'm going through right now on this, and I'm taking the Almirage, and I'm writing down Keen Sense and Horn. And then I'm going to Awakened Elk and putting in Charge, Ram, and Hooves. and then going to the rat and putting keen smell and bite, and I'm taking all of the ability and dark vision as well. I'm taking all of these abilities and I'm kind of listing them and then seeing which are the ones that are most used and are common across the various resources. And then I'm going to compile a list and say, okay, when you wild shape into your druidic form, into your wild shape animal of the land, these are the things that you can pick from. Much like this, you could have 3 traits, and you would pick based off of stuff that is super common, like the 3 and 4s. You get to pick one that's slightly less common and ones that are more rare. If you want a link for this, it is that. And no, I did not post it in my own Discord. It was actually posted in someone else's. So I will post that in my own Discord. And by the way, if you want to join the Discord, there's the link above me. So again, this is what I think we should do. I'm doing it, so I probably will do, talk about that at some point in the future, because it's kind of a big list, and I'm also trying to do it for, like, when druids reach 4th and 8th level, and this and this list they're kind of big. That's a lot of monsters to go through, so we'll be looking into it. But yeah, so that's my general opinions, and then I'm gonna finish this up. I'm 31. I live in the US. I am as white as they come. Where is that? There we go. And I'm a man, and I'm submitting. So coolio, there we go. That is the survey for the druids and the paladins. All right, so now we are gonna go on to some questions that some folks in my community had, and that I am going to answer. I just need to pull up that document. Oh, can't see that. All right, so it looks like we got a few questions in here. Oh shoot, I closed the one window that I should not have. Oops. All right, cool. All right, I just need to switch the screen we are looking at over to this one. There we go. And there's perfect. All right. And okay, and one more. I gotta. Ooh. Tell you what, Google Docs does not like to do simple formatting anymore for some reason. Yeah. All right, so yeah, sorry about the delay, but some of the questions that we got, I'm going to go through them. There was one that I'm going to go into a little bit, and then some of them are about DMing specifically. But if you have questions that you would like me to answer and offer my advice, or just even ramble on about some shit for a little while related to D&D, feel free to head over to the Discord. You can go to the link above me, or if you click the About button below me, there's a big old Discord button. You can join over there. There is a there's a channel in there called the DM Advice Corner, and you can ask your questions at any point, and I will answer them in the upcoming episode, but not the movie yet. No, until I don't even talk about spoilers until a week after a movie has come out, unless it's very specifically, if I plan on doing a spoiler video where I go over stuff in it, I will make sure that it's like spoiler across the entire title. And I do plan on doing that, but not right now. But after I see the movie again, I probably will. So we'll get to that point when the time comes. So, going on to the first question. The first question comes from Tripsky, also Steve, if you don't know him. He plays Cephtus in my P5 campaign. So he plays a Warforged barbarian. He plays a volcano barbarian, and his question is, how would one go about building or acquiring an automaton army? Like a wee army of subservience, a mechanical maniacal overlord would command at their whim. I see where you're going with this, Steve. And I have put some thought about this in the past. Now, there is a very simple answer. If you are looking for just a quick kind of small army, depending on what objects you have around you, the animate object spell might do you well. You get to pick 10 non-magical objects within range, and if you want to have the most that you can have, you would want to have tiny objects. So, or small, because like it says, medium creature or medium targets count as 2, large count as 4, huge count as 8. So realistically, while they won't do as much damage, they do have a higher hit modifier and a higher AC, but slightly less hit points. Tiny and small is going to be what you would want to do. Now, there's a very simple way to do this, and a lot of classes get this. Artificer, Bard, Sorcerer, Wizard, even certain clerics, and the Warlock, and you can also get this by taking the Ezete Engineer background. So, very simply, go to a general store and buy a bunch of little clockwork soldiers, or like little tin men, and you could even make them. If you took the Ezete Engineer background and maybe you were an artificer, there is the argument that you could just tinker up some small little non-magical objects that look like tiny little robots, and then you can animate them. It is a 5th level spell though, and it only lasts for a minute, so you don't have this army for very long, but it is still 10 creatures. It's now still 10 things on the battlefield with 20 hit points and an 18 AC with a +8 to hit and 1d4 +4. So they're not going to die immediately, and even if you do small, they're a little bit easier to hit, but they have more hit points and they do considerably more damage. Nanomachines, son. Yeah, that's exactly it. So that is one way to have, an automaton style army. But if you want something in the more long term, there is also a major tier, very rare item known as the Manual of Golems. So there's actually different kinds of manuals of golems. We'll scroll down to here. So you can see on the left, we have flesh golems, clay golems, stone golems. Just in general, we have the 4. So if you wanted these to be mechanical, you would obviously want to go with iron golems. The iron golems have their own stat block. They're actually reasonably powerful considering they are CR 16, but it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. So it's 120 days. You have to work without interruption for no more than 8 hours per day, and you also have to spend 100,000 gold. But once you do it, you have an iron golem. So technically speaking, if you had multiple books and a few years, you could do this. Now, the thing that can really help you with this would be the spell Simulacrum. So Simulacrum, 7th level illusion spell, allows you to create an illusory duplicate of yourself that is exactly the same as whatever you created as the mimic is. I mean, as the origin is. So if you had multiples of these books and you cast Simulacrum, then you can actually get this done twice as fast. So there's that. You can also have your Simulacrum cast Simulacrum, because it doesn't say that the ability, the Simulacrum lacks the ability to learn or become more powerful, so it never increases its level or anything like that, nor can it regain spell slots. But if you have something that allows it to cast Simulacrum, you can just have it cast Simulacrum. And believe me, there are videos and forums about having this where you just create these armies of Simulacrums. So that's another option, Simulacrum and the Iron Golem army. The other option is to be a necromancer and have your, Grim Harvest ability and your undead thralls be reflavored when you cast Animate Dead as being constructs, and that they are, mechanical in nature, because, you can cast this a number of times per day. In fact, I think there was a video that was put out either by the Dungeon Dudes or somebody on YouTube that was like, if you cast Animate Dead multiple times a day, you could just keep restoring an army. So if you work with your DM and have them flavor them, if they allow you to flavor them as constructs, and that they're, robots instead of skeletons or something like that, then that's an option. But if you want to do it by the book, and you want to do it right, and you want to have a permanent kind of small army, well, my opinion would be play an artificer, and either play a variant human or take the Strixhaven background. Now, the reason why you want the Strixhaven background is because that allows you to take the Strixhaven mascot feat, which lets you cast Find Familiar as a ritual, and it allows your familiar to attack. You can forego one attack to allow your mascot to make one attack of its own with its reaction. You can also teleport between your location and its, so that's a benefit. If you play an artificer, you go battlesmith. That is going to get you a steel defender. So that is going to be one of your big companions. That's going to be one of your creatures. And this can be flavored in any way that you want. For example, the one that they use is like an iron mastiff, but if you think back to my Rime of the Frost Maiden game with Ravenchuck, Beefchuck was an iron snake. So it's very much just dependent on your flavor, so you could really flavor it however you want. The next thing with the Artificer is your Artificer infusions. Now, the one that we're going to focus on is Homunculus Servant. So when you take this, you are able to create a small homunculus servant that has its own abilities and whatnot. So, you know, they look however you want. They can be really whatever you want. But for the most part, they just are there in combat. They share your initiative. I don't believe that they can attack. It can move its user's reaction, but the only action it can take is dodge unless you take a bonus action to command it to use anything else on its stat block. So, you know, you could use your bonus action to command your homunculus servant to attack, and it has Force Strike. So you're not getting a lot of damage out of it, but you know, let's say that you're level 4. Okay, so 1d4 plus 2, that's not too bad. Your Steel Defender acts on its own turn. So if we scroll back down to here, so it obeys your commands, but it shares your initiative and takes its turn immediately after you. And, oh no, I'm sorry, that one is also the bonus action to command it. But you can even have your homunculus servant sitting on back order and basically being there to help maybe supply items and whatnot. And then you're gonna have your Find Familiar. So you can pretty much at all times have like 3 small companions out there with you. On top of that, you're gonna be able to cast Animate Objects and get those 10 small or tiny creatures. You can also cast the spell Tiny Servant, which allows you to touch a tiny non-magical object and animate it. And then that one also has a bonus action that you can use to, you know, make it do stuff. And then on top of that, there's like even, you know, from new stuff, you got stuff like a Clockwork Defender, you know, different monsters that maybe you could befriend and, you know, purchase or something like that. So if you are going about building an army that you want to have like an automaton army, again, my 3 ways that you could really do this would be to really be any class and do Animate Objects. It only lasts for a little bit, but you do have a small army. Be a necromancer wizard and work with your DM to reflavor them into constructs, and kind of go like Frankenstein mad scientist style. And then you can build up a slow army of, you know, of construct skeletons over time, or play a battlesmith artificer and have a Steel Defender, a homunculus servant, and a familiar by getting Find Familiar somehow. Again, this is just one option. So those are my answers to your question, my friend. We'll put that down here. So Artificer with Steel Defender, monk. Oh god, I can't spell homunculus servant. Servant and Find Familiar. Animate Objects and a construct flavored wizard. with animate dead. There we go. Those are your 3 options, at least from my perspective. All right, on to the next question. So this one's asked by Stacy in the chat. When considering introducing folks to D&D or tabletops in general, who think it might seem fun but are hesitant, where might you start? Especially if you feel they might really enjoy. We'll just break this down to what would it make sense to prepare a shorter and longer version of first session or so in case while playing they want to do a full session? Another is length of commitment. I guess that is right. Also, common feeling is there's too many. Okay, so when considering introducing folks to D&D, where might you start? So, oh, that's fine. Yeah, hey, he can always re-listen, and I'm gonna post the answer in chat anyway, or in the Discord, so he'll see it. All right, so when introducing folks to D&D, where might you start? So, it is true that D&D kind of has this, old history of being a lot of rules, being a lot of math, and that does kind of make people a little hesitant to play it. I actually don't think most people really realize the time commitment depending on the style of game until things get to a point where they're like, oh, this could go on for months. And at that point, they might already be, properly invested and then realize like it's not something they can continue. So I actually think that is something to explain and like really come to the table with, of saying, okay, are you, if you have people that are interested in trying it, asking them, are you looking for something that is a short term, you just want to try it, maybe 1 or 2 sessions, or are you looking to really jump in with both feet and go for it? So when I introduce people to D&D in general, a lot of times I focus more on the storytelling and roleplay aspects. I don't really get too bogged down when just trying to explain to people about D&D, because that is the stuff that really drives them away. So referring to folks I know that I mentioned when talking about D&D. Okay, so like I was saying, I generally start by explaining to people like, hey, it's not just a bunch of rules, it's not just a bunch of math, it is a collaborative storytelling experience, and where you get to make your own choices, and it's not like a video game where you have the choices that the developers put in front of you. You can really do whatever you want. And then a lot of times I'll actually just give them a scenario, and it's my classic scenario. You're walking down a road, you round the corner, and you see a carriage overturned on its side with 2 dead horses attached to the front. You're delivering a package from town A to town B, and you come across the scene. What do you do? And that's actually the big one that I always pose to players, because in that moment, they are now starting to think. They're putting themselves in this role, and they might even ask, like, well, who am I? Like, do I have magic and stuff? And you can ask, like, okay, sure. Do you want to have magic? You can be a wizard. You can be a sorcerer or a warlock. Do you want to be a sword wielder? Or do you want to have a bow? Maybe do you want to carry daggers and be real stealthy? Don't go too crazy, because like you don't want to start listing off all the classes and all the abilities. And where I normally say is, okay, well, would your character fight up close and personal from far away, or would they use magic? And that kind of gives you, if they want to fight up close, okay, you're a fighter. You have a sword, maybe you have a sword and shield, maybe you have a big sword. If they say, okay, I want to fight far away, you say, okay, you might be a rogue or a ranger, where you're using a bow, or maybe you're throwing daggers. if they say, I want to cast spells, it's like, okay, you're a wizard or you're a sorcerer. You have a staff or a wand and you're able to shoot magic. That kind of gets them in the mood because now they're starting to think about like what their character can do. And this was where they might ask about like, well, what can I do? And tell them, well, you can go up and investigate the cart. You can explore the area around it. There's bushes off to the side that you can go and investigate. Maybe you just walk past it. Is it really any of your business to check on whether that cart is overturned? And that really puts puts these people into this mindset of like starting to build these ideas of, okay, this is what I can do. I can really do anything. Okay, well, I throw a rock at it, or, you know, I give it a wide berth. I move to the bushes on the other side. I don't need to worry about that. I'm heading to town to deliver a package. And you can kind of just play with them a little, you know, come up with small little things, you know, oh, I just go to the next town. I don't want to worry about this. Okay, cool. So you continue on to town B, and when you get there, you find out that the person you're delivering this to never arrived, that they were supposed to be arriving in a horse-drawn carriage about 3 days ago, and they never showed up. That then puts it back on the player of like, oh, shit. That was probably their carriage. And then, you know, you can keep going with that. So, in my opinion, that's where I would start. Explain to them that it's not necessarily just a bunch of rules, that you don't have to have all this dice and numbers. It's really just about, here's a scenario. What do you do? What does your character do? You know, and then it gives them the opportunity to really think about their character. And then if they are drawn in by this idea of collaborative storytelling, then you can say, well, hey, if you're interested in this, you know, let's play, you know, if maybe you're planning on something, maybe you're out there actively looking for people to run like a one shot or something. You say, okay, hey, I'm planning to put together a small little, you know, maybe 2 to 3 hour adventure, you know, around this idea for a few people. Would you be interested? And if they say yes, then I say, okay, cool. You know, maybe let's get together at some point and let's think about what your character can be. You know, let's get a character together for you. And that's when you sit down with them and, you know, you make a level 1 character, because level 1 characters are very approachable. You know, oh, let's stick to some standard races. You know, let's not worry about the huge list of races that are available across the entire thing. Maybe let's just look at what's in the player's handbook. You know, okay, well, yeah, that's a lot more approachable. I can be a human. I can be a hobbit. I've heard of dwarves, and oh, cool, a dragonborn. You know what? I want to be an elf. I like this idea of being an elf that can cast a spell, or maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll be a dragonborn and breathe fire. Okay, it gives them that opportunity to really think about, like, you know, hey, you have a lot of options. Or what you can also do is something that I have done in the past, and come up with some characters beforehand. Give them the option to just play as a character. All the characters from Poetry Amblecrown all the way down to Surgor Marked is pre-made characters that I made that anybody could just jump into. Granted, they are level 3, but I could always reduce their level to 1. And then you just tell them, like, hey, here's a character. Hey, you want to be a sword wielding character? Okay, cool. Well, we have this guy. He's a dragonborn paladin. His name's Kaladin. Okay, that's cool. Or we have Wurbrin. He's a dwarf fighter. He carries around a big axe. So again, that's generally where I start. Just trying to really grasp them with the concept of it's storytelling where everybody has a voice. You're not just listening to one person tell you a story. It's where you can make free choices. So folks are interested in the concept and role-playing a character, but are concerned about the time. That, super simple. Don't commit to anything, okay? just get some people together. Say, hey, let's play for an hour. Okay, let's see how far we get in an hour. And if we're all comfortable after an hour and we want to keep going, you know, let's play a little bit more. Again, in my opinion, and I've said this before on chat, the Lost Mines of Phandelver, the very first part of it, the Goblin Arrows, is, in my opinion, one of the best introductory D&D adventures that exist. It is a simple goblin ambush there that teaches players about combat and the very basics of combat, and also stealth, that things can hide. It teaches them about exploration and traps, because there's a snare and a pit along the way to the cave. And then the cave gives them that knowledge of exploration. There's also a trap in here where all of this water is released. There's combat encounters, and there's roleplay encounters. When you get to Clarg's Den and you're talking to, where the fuck is he? Where the fuck is Clarg? Wait, what room is that? Number 8. I didn't go far enough. Yeah, when you're in Clarg's cave, you have a roleplay opportunity with them. So, but the nice thing is that you can play this out in chunks, okay? Maybe your players are going up to this carriage and they get attacked by the goblins, so they fight back, and after they kill the goblins, maybe they just search the wagon a bit. They find the same marking on their package as on the side of the cart, or maybe on a robe inside the cart. And maybe at that point they're like, oh, okay, this was a lot of fun. You know, we found the next clue. But maybe they'll grasp onto that. And they'll, you know, it's maybe been an hour, and they'll say, you know what? Well, obviously the person we're delivering this to was attacked, or they were kidnapped or killed. You know, we should find out what happened. Is there clues around? Can we search the area and find if there's some place where the goblins would have gone? And then you can build upon that. So you would suggest preparing to play a shorter session and a longer one. I would suggest prepping something in general that could maybe last 3 hours, maybe 4 hours at most, because at 4 hours people start to lose attention, and just let your players decide where they want to stop. Again, your players might kill these goblins and find out that bit of information and then say, awesome, good job, guys, you know, this was really fun, thanks for letting me try this. And then you might have, you know, and it's like, well, I gotta go, you know, I got something else I have to go and do. And you might have those other ones where it's like, well, is there more to this? And it's like, yeah, there's more. It's like, do you want to keep going? Yeah, let's keep going. So I wouldn't say prepare to play a shorter session. I would say prepare to play something that you can keep going, but that has chunks in it that are sizable bits that you can lead off from. You know, that's my suggestion. Take something like this. Take something like the Goblin Arrows, and, you know, it's chunked up into 4 main bits. You have the Goblin Ambush, you have the Goblin Trail, and you have the cave. Sorry, I said 4, I meant 3. And then after that, your players can head on to Phandalin. If they really dig into this and they're starting to really like this over 4 hours, it's like, okay, well, you know, we rescued Sildar and we're on our way to Phandalin. It's like, okay, great. Now what? And it's like, well, that's all I have for today. If you guys are interested, maybe we can pick this up another time. Maybe we can, you know, form a small group and meet every 2 weeks or once a month to play and something like that. I guess then the skill is learning to find something with decent chunks. It is, but you can really, like, you can take a one shot, okay? If you, a perfect example, one shot wonders, let me do it this way. One-shot wonders. And let me pull up that PDF that they have. So, Rude Awakening. Here we go. So, this is something I've talked about before. This is the One-Shot Wonders, Rude Awakening. A heated hike, okay? Your players arrive at a volcano. There's a mining operation going around. They find out some crazy stuff is going on. And, you know, they start to head up to the mine, okay? You can have something small there. You can have this just be what it is. Maybe there's some elementals in there, okay? They get in, they deal with some traps, and that's it. Or maybe you insert a small encounter as they're heading up to the mines. Again, it's really just about kind of chunking things out into, you know, short 1 hour bits, because if you do that, you give your players and these new people who are just jumping into the hobby the opportunity to really like say, okay, I'm good with what we did and now I'm done. But you're also leaving the door open for if they want to keep going. Because for me, it's family, sisters, friends. Like, you play for how many hours? Which is for some, yeah. So, and that's it. I would say if it's people that are concerned about time, say, you know, hey, do you guys want to try D&D? You know, I made a character. I made 5 characters. You guys can pick who you want to play as, and we'll run a small little thing, and you just, you know, it's a small little combat encounter, or maybe depending on how you guys play it up, it might be, you know, you might be able to use diplomacy, kind of put the ball in their court. But again, just do this goblin ambush, because you can play it up however you want. If your players want to be more diplomatic, oh no, don't attack us, wait, you know, we're not looking to hurt you, and we don't want to be hurt, we're just trying to move through the area. Okay, and, you know, play into their style. It doesn't have to end up, you don't have to think sessions down the line of what are the consequences of this. Let their choices really shape the encounter, because that explains to them and puts the interest in their hands of, how do I affect this world? What are my choices and why do they matter? And that is, in a lot of cases, what people like about this, is that they have choices to make and they can do stuff that is interesting and actually have an effect on the world. And again, that goes back to the whole idea of it being collaborative storytelling. You're all just telling a story, but everyone gets a voice in the matter. So, find a small one-shot or series of small connected encounters and run each encounter as though you could stop the moment it's done. Again, that's kind of the key thing. Again, kind of going back to goblin arrows, for example, you can stop at the ambush. You know, oh, you killed these goblins, you search the thing, okay, cool, you find this robe, awesome. Maybe at that point they might just be done with it. It's like, okay, cool, do you guys want to keep going? But, you know, open the door to them. So do you guys want to stop there, or do you want to keep going? Do you want to figure out what happened to the person, you know, who was in this carriage that got attacked, that had the same symbol on your package? Entice them into it and draw them in. You know, if you look at the clocks and, you know, if they see that it's been 2 hours and maybe they're done, then hey, they're done. So that's my opinion. Yeah, that's where I would really, you know, kind of formulate around that. All right, so on to the next question. These next ones were all asked by Stacy. So how might or should a DM pose an encounter threatens Okay. Should a DM pose an encounter that threatens the life of common folk that the players are charged with protecting? Or how might a DM pose an encounter that threatens the lives of common folk that they are protecting? So I think should and how might are definitely two different questions. Should, yes. 100%. I stand by that, because what purpose do players have protecting people if there are no threats threatening those people that they are in charge of protecting? Simple enough of a yes or no. If your players are meant to protect something and there's no threats that can cause issue to whatever they're protecting, then they're not protecting it. They're just kind of hanging out. Okay? It is the act of putting an encounter in front of them that threatens those they are charged with protecting that actually means something. So how might a DM pose an encounter that threatens the life of common folks that they're charged with protecting? It's really dependent on the situation. As those who watch this channel might know, yesterday's P5 campaign had exactly this. The players were charged with protecting a group of common folk going from one town to another. Unfortunately, because the apex predator in the area, the white dragon, was recently killed. What's up, Zingy? How you doing tonight, man? Because the apex predator in the area was able to get, is no longer there, it means that the other predators in the area are now going to start trying to expand out their territories. If you have a creature like a dragon that nests into an area, it's going to drive back a lot of other creatures. Those players in Phandalin 5 from back in the day knew that when they encountered a manticore that was having to go further beyond than he ever had to get food, because now he's competing with something bigger than him. But now that that is gone, those kind of predators are going to be out looking to expand their area of influence, to have more access to food. So that's going to shape how you want to do this. You might have a scenario where your players are staying at a village. Okay, that village recently got word that a group of barbarians will be raiding the town in 3 days' time, and your players have been hired to guard it, to protect them. So you would set up a map, have, in that particular case, because they have time to prepare, you might give them the opportunity to prep up the area and, help train up the commoners. But if your players arrive in a village that they have mere minutes before an attack, because maybe your players saw this raging, or this war band marching towards this village, and your players know that village is in the way, they might have minutes to get there and try and warn them that, there's danger approaching. Or, in the case of my campaign yesterday, it could be an ambush by creatures that are looking for food. So how would you go about setting that up? Again, that is very much dependent on the scenario. The main thing that you want to do, though, is you do want to give the players the opportunity to defend those people. Again, if it's something where they have time to prep, maybe they spend time training them. Make them do, you know, skill checks. Give them time to do activities around the village, maybe digging ditches or setting up pylons and barricades. Maybe building small mounds that archers can sit on the top of houses and stuff like that. If it's something where it's a more of an ambush, more of an immediate threat, then you need to make the threat real. You need to put those commoners in the line of fire. Make them a viable target. So often in campaigns and in one-shots, your players are the only targets on the battlefield. All the monsters are focusing on, you know, these strong people that can swing a sword 4 times in one go, or can cast a fireball, or they can turn into a bear or go invisible. But if you're a hungry monster, you're not going to go after stuff like that. You're going to go after that old feeble man that, you know, is going to provide you with a meal for the day. You're going to go after that guy that's running out into the open, that's, you know, running for his life, because those are the ones that are going to pose the least threat. Those are the ones that you're going to have the best opportunity at actually hoisting off the ground or running away with, or what have you, however the encounter is playing out. So again, I guess this would technically be question 2. How might a DM pose an encounter? It depends on the situation, but it should be something that the players have a feasible opportunity to offer as much protection as physically possible. No. Depends on the situation, but it'd be something that the players have a feasible opportunity to offer as much protection as they possibly can. We'll say it that way. Because that's the thing. You don't want to give something that is so beyond their capabilities that an overall 100% failure is inevitable. You should not give them an ambush from a volcano lava flow coming down a mountain about to wipe out literally an entire village in seconds, because they can't do anything with that. They might be able to, you know, move earth or cast ice ball, or, you know, can't use I guess a decanter of endless water might help in that. But if you wanted to have an encounter where it was protecting somebody from a giant lava flow, have it be something where it's, you know, a day that they have, or that it's, you know, a few hours they have. Maybe the volcano's rumbling and everybody's feeling that pressure, and have them have time to, you know, dig a ditch around or to move people out of the village. But there should always be something at stake, okay? There should be something that your players have to risk losing. And if that is a commoner, then it's a commoner. If it's one of their own, it's one of their own. If I was running an encounter where a village was about to be hit by a lava flow, I would have the players spend time trying to get everybody out that they could, okay? I would have them roll persuasion to convince the people that there's this lava flow coming, you know, try and convince them. And you know what? I wouldn't make the DC like 20 or anything to make it impossible, like, oh, we don't believe in volcanoes even though we live in the path of one. I'd make it something where they're like, you know, hey, we got to get out. We can help you. Like, let's grab everything we can. So the players move an entire small, you know, they move this small village out of the way. And as they, you know, as they're out there, the volcano's now erupting and this giant stream of lava is coming down, you have one of the commoners, wait, where's my little sister? It's like, what do you mean? It's like, And then, you know, have it be something where you see this little girl running back to the village. Why? Maybe she left her doll back there. Maybe she left her dog or something. Okay? Put the players in a scenario where now there is a risk. Okay? Have it be something where they have to do something to protect somebody. Okay? And whether that's them going up and, you know, they wrestle this girl back, tell her that it's not worth it. Okay? That's a decision that they have to make. Maybe they go in there. Maybe the players have to face off against that lava flow. Maybe you have them try and create a barrier for them to get to the one house that they need to get to. Maybe there's a dog in a basket in there that, you know, she was going to go for a walk with him and she forgot to grab the basket and she doesn't want to lose her puppy. Or maybe she has a toy there that was the only thing she has from her parents. Whatever the case may be, there needs to be something at risk for any of this to matter. Why do adventurers do good? And a lot of it is money. Why do adventurers want money? Because that's part of the job. But why do adventurers help people? It's because deep down they are good. There is an aspect of them that wants to help people. But if there is nothing ever at risk, if there's nobody at risk of danger, then why do it? You know, why have these scenarios where somebody could possibly die if you're never going to have anybody die? Or if you're never going to have anybody at true risk? And you need to put stuff like this in front of your players to give the game meaning, to give their choices meaning. What is better for them to do? Is it better that we spend all of our effort trying to, you know, should we kill this wyvern that's flying away with 2 commoners in its hands? Maybe not. Maybe have the wizard cast hold creature or hold monster on the thing. That's an option. Okay, hold monster, its speed is 0, it falls. It makes a dexterity, the DM makes a dexterity save to see if it falls on these commoners that it's carrying. Okay, maybe you have the beautiful spell Featherfall. If there's a creature within 60 feet of you that you can see is falling, cast Featherfall on them so that they don't die. There are options. There are ways to protect people. Okay? So, to answer the question, should a DM pose an encounter that threatens the lives of common folk that the players are charged with protecting? Absolutely. Put your players in a scenario where they are actually challenged and there are consequences to their actions and play style. If you have an entire party that focuses around killing, around actionable spells, stuff like fireball all the time, or lightning bolts, or you have a bunch of combat hungry characters, yeah, you're gonna have these situations that pop up that says, okay, maybe that style isn't perfect for this encounter, and maybe you play through that, and maybe some people die, and maybe you realize, hey, maybe we should reconsider our style sometimes if the scenario changes. When we're out killing a bunch of bugbears and goblins, hey, maybe it's not as big a deal. It's fine. They're just goblins and bugbears. But maybe if a wyvern is flying away with 2 commoners that have just watched their entire town be melted down by the cult of the dragon, who is just attacked inside of a fortress by a group of orcs because of the party's actions prior to that session, yeah, maybe those commoners have a reason to be afraid. Maybe those commoners need the protection that the players can offer. Maybe they don't understand the protection the players can offer, or maybe the players don't demonstrate the protection that they offer in a way that the commoners can understand. I mean, hey, we all know that you have to crack a few nuts every now and again. But the commoners don't see that. When they are the peanut that gets crushed by the wyvern, well, they see things a little differently. So, on to the next question. We're going to answer this in the same way. We're going to answer it in the two that we have. First, should a DM present an encounter that puts a clearly underpowered NPC into direct conflict with a party or a PC? Should? Yes. That, again, to me, is a simple answer. If you have a party or a player that is trying to do good on the grand scale, and you have somebody that is clearly massively underpowered compared to them, and it puts them in direct conflict with them because of something that is out of the NPC's control, or possibly is by direct impact of the party or a PC, that's not necessarily presenting an encounter that puts an NPC into direct conflict with the party. That is simply a conflict that has emerged between a clearly underpowered NPC and the party or a PC. So I don't necessarily think I could answer how might a DM present this, because I don't think it should necessarily come up that often. I don't generally aim to make that an encounter, because at the end of the day, these are supposed to be heroes. These are supposed to be people, the players are supposed to be, at least to some degree, bastions of safety and good in the world, trying to stop the grander evil. By that measure, those PCs should be acting in such a way that at least demonstrates they have the greater good in their eyes, and that they are not going to sacrifice everything around them to just get what they want. Because that is evil. That is chaotic evil. To just do what you want regardless of the safety and security of anyone around you for your own wants and will, that's chaotic evil. And that is hands down. So, but when an encounter arises that clearly could, or that could put a underpowered NPC into direct conflict with the PC, should the DM de-escalate it on his behalf? It depends on the scenario. It depends on the NPC. Referring to yesterday's encounter between you and the NPC that was trying to leave the caravan, that was an encounter. That was a dynamic and a conversation and a role-play encounter that was playing out. An NPC in that group felt that the party had not lived up to the level of hero or protection that they had been told would be offered. They then decided, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go my separate way. They wanted their belongings and goods, and one of the party members decided no. I will admit, because it came up after the fact, that they were unaware that that NPC was trying to take their own belongings, that they were not trying to take the goods of the town, but they were simply trying to take their own belongings. But that confusion is not only the player's confusion, that's the PC's confusion, okay? If the player hears this and says, you're not taking this stuff, then you know, that NPC is going to respond in kind. They're going to, what do you mean? It's my stuff. This belongs to me. And that player who is, you know, in that scenario where the player themselves might not know the scenario, they might not realize that that's their goods. They're playing that into their character. Their character, therefore, does not know that those goods belong to that NPC. So their first thought is, you're not taking the town's stuff. So a conflict breaks out. Now, sure, is it on the, you know, did I, as the DM in that scenario, escalate it and put that NPC at risk? Yes. But there's a reason I did that. And it goes back to the previous question. Should a DM pose an encounter that threatens the life of a common folk? Yes. Have the NPC be the fallible character. Have the scared commoner whose wife died in the attack on Phandalin be the scared and terrified one. Have him be the angry one. He was ushered down to Axholm, where he was told he would be safe. He was told that this band of adventurers who has done these good things all around the area would be heading to a nearby town to speak on their behalf, to offer them a new bastion of safety and security in a new home. And when that party gets back, all of a sudden they show up for a moment and they're like, hey, we'll be back. And they ride off. And then next thing they know, that NPC just knows that suddenly they're being attacked by orcs, that the whole fortress is at danger, that some young lady lost her life in some explosion that went on outside, an explosion that the players had a hand in. This is what these people see. They don't see the fact that, you know, the players went out and, you know, that they killed the dragon to save the town, that they killed a grand amount of orcs to get their wagons of supplies back. They didn't know that they went to Lylon and defended it from cultists or saved a group of lizard folk. They don't know any of that. All they know is that a group of heroes showed up to handle the dragon in the area. About 2 weeks later, suddenly a group of cultists show up with a dragon and melts half the town. This group shows up again, and then days later, a whole band of orcs shows up and attacks a fortress they're living in. And now they're being ushered away to what should be a bastion of safety. And what happens? They're led into an ambush of wyverns. This is how you build a living world, okay? And you put that anger and that fury and that hate into that NPC. Because when that character finally snaps, everyone has their breaking point. When that NPC snaps, because it happens in real life, you have them lash out. How many videos do you see on the internet of some guy, you know, being screamed at in his face, or something terrible being happened to him and somebody's trying to calm him down? He says, calm down. And then he, you know, just swings. Okay, it happens. People lose their cool and they just act. And this commoner, in that moment of frustration, when he does not feel safe around the people that were promising him safety, or that he was promised would lead them to safety, when that trust was broken and he wanted to leave and was being denied what belonged to him because of a misunderstanding, he wasn't sitting there thinking, well, maybe I should explain to this person that these are my belongings and that I simply want to leave with what belongs to me. In his mind, he is being denied his ability to leave the danger that is now present, and he lashes out. He punches this PC. And in that moment, when I say that as a DM, you have to stand by and hold your players to their actions. even though they might joke, even though they might say something not realizing you're going to hold them to this, when that encounter happened, when that moment came up and Aaron said, I cast Hellish Rebuke. Okay, I rolled a dexterity saving throw. I told Aaron to roll damage. And yes, I understand I used a semantic, you know, I turned a phrase and said he deals barely any damage. That's because I rolled to hit Aaron. I hit him. I rolled 1 damage. But because of that, because I said roll damage, he said I cast Hellish Rebuke. I rolled a dexterity saving throw. I said roll damage and he rolled damage. That was it. In that moment, it was exactly like the spell says, as a reaction. And that was Yu's reaction in that moment. He got hit. He's protecting himself. He casts Hellish Rebuke against his oncoming threat. Was that something that he should have said? No. Was it something he should have done? Probably not. But if you, as a DM, do not hold your players accountable for their actions, what is the purpose of putting challenges in front of them? When you have a scenario that challenges your players' morality, you don't just take it back because one of the other players says, oh, I try and, you know, I try and talk him out of it. Or, you know, you don't let them sneak their way out of it because they, well, I didn't actually take damage. No, you did. You took 1 damage. Well, I would just use minor. No, you now know the consequences of your actions. And because of that, you want to rescind them. And that's not how, that's, if it was real life, you don't have that option. You have to make that choice when you react. Same with the NPC. So, should a DM present an encounter that puts an underpowered NPC into direct conflict with them or to a party or a PC? Yeah, that you should. You should put moral quandaries in front of your players. You should give your players something to lose in encounters. In this one, when it was about people dying, yeah, they could lose some commoners. They can lose a little bit of trust. But what are they losing in this? They're losing morality. They're losing trust on a grander scale. In that scenario, Yu was bound. He had his main magic weapon taken away that he casts his majority of his spells through. He's not completely underpowered. He still has verbal spells and whatnot, but the trust is gone. That was the loss. There is now there's now worry and fraught and distrust spread throughout the party. That could leach out into the grander group. Lanine and Azdalor in that scenario, do they trust him anymore? Do Tobin and Zelene trust that this is somebody that is going to lead them across the sea to resurrect this surrogate child that they have? Are they going to want that? You know? And this, but here's the silver lining on this, okay? This provides roleplay. This provides opportunities. It provides a chance to rebuild. And it gives the players something to work towards together. You have the members of the group that are directly involved into this that now have to show that they can be trusted. You have those that the trust has been broken in that need to see that they are putting forth an effort to do something good, to accept that, to forgive them in time, to show that they are making an attempt to be a part of something grand. This is why you put these kind of encounters in front of your players, so that they have the opportunity to build up those, to have those failures, so that they can move on from them and learn from them and build from them and become greater than they were before. If you never challenge your players, if you never give them the opportunity to fail, they're never evolving. They get stronger, sure, they level up, but if your character is the exact same from when they started to when they end and they don't learn anything, go play a video game. I mean, go play a roguelike. You're not learning anything. You're collecting bits and bobs as you play every round. Be a character that evolves. Have a story. Have things that you fail with and things that you succeed, and let your failures lead to more stories that you can build up and play. These are the things that make D&D so great. You have these opportunities to build up from these failures, from these missteps, from these choices that you make that in the moment might be a laugh, but afterwards you realize, I now have to build from this. So, I don't know how I can culminate all that into one sentence, but how might a DM present an encounter? It's all situational. But make the encounter mean something. All right, and the last question, because we are going on 2 hours, so I'm going to answer this last question and maybe one from the list above, and then we're going to call it for tonight. So, how would a DM prepare for an encounter where there is almost a guaranteed margin of failure or non-combative NPC risk? So, how do you build an encounter where there's going to be some margin of failure? Realistically, there's 2 ways that you can do it. One, make a table of events that happen within, like, if this is actually a thought out encounter, something where there is like different stages that you might be planning out, like that village that's going to be attacked by raiders, you could have a table that says, okay, if the whole town, or if the party is able to stop the raiders before they get to this point, nobody in the town dies. Everybody is saved. But if they get to this point, then I roll a d4. And if they get to this next point, I roll, say, a d8. And if they get to this next one, I roll a d12. And if they get the whole way in and they've kind of surrounded the whole place, then I roll 2d12. That's one way that you can do it. You can have there be margins of failure. Again, this kind of goes back to what I was saying before. You need to have some risk, okay? You need to have some opportunity for them to fail. But give them the opportunity, give them an opportunity to really save everyone. And it can be small. It can be so small that it's almost impossible. But the reality is that you should be providing them with those opportunities to fail. Again, it goes back to what we were saying. Oh man, my bitrate just dropped. It plummeted. Oh my God, what is going on? This happened the other day. My bitrate just dropped out. There it goes. It's recovering. So, like I said, the one would be to make a system of levels that increases the rate, or make a system that increases the level of failure as the encounter progresses. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so again, you really, it is something that you would have to sit down with and really like think about how you want to do this. Again, if it's a pre-planned encounter and something like that village, or the volcano, give them something that they can work towards, kind of explain to them like, okay, you can build enforcements on the outside and then you can like really reinforce things on the inside. The other one is if it's more spontaneous, kind of like the wyvern attack. In that, you want to make it something where there is enough room for the players to work in ways to stop that failure from happening. So again, like I said before, with the wyverns, there are spells like Hold Monster. There are spells like Featherfall. You could even argue about having somebody, you know, using the decanter of endless water to like spray the wyverns and like try and do something. Allow your players to creatively think about solutions to these problems and give them credit when they come up with some creative solution. For example, in yesterday's session, when Smith banished that one wyvern and was able to maintain concentration the whole time, that was good. That got one of those out. But he could have had, instead of Iggy casting, Ice Ball on the one, like with that one where he cast Polymorph, that was smart. That took out a threat. Unfortunately, because not everyone in the party knows how Polymorph works, he was immediately brought back. But in that scenario, let's just say that the Polymorph maintained. Okay, let's just say that, that slug was not attacked. Okay, then maybe the other wyvern that snuck up on the party and snatched up those two, maybe that one could have been handled before it was able to fully take off. Okay, maybe the one that was above Cephas would have been killed, and then you guys would have seen the one that snuck up on the party that came down from the hill, and would have gotten to that one before those commoners got attacked. So again, it's allow room for the players to creatively overcome the encounter, and honestly improvise. That's really the other thing. I mean, be willing to work with your party. If they want to try something that has a reasonable amount of space to succeed, let it work. It's always an opportunity to give them some credit for creative thinking. So, but again, you never want to just, you never just want to take away the risk because you might feel bad that that you're doing this. You have to make your players understand that there's a real threat. So have a scenario where maybe at least one person, have it be that one person might die. Okay, if I had run that encounter differently and had the wyvern come down and snatch up one of the first people, couldn't have stopped that. That was an ambush. Okay, sometimes you have to do something like that. Your party's traveling through bandit infested territory. You're going with a small group of people. You're talking to a farmer who's telling you about the next town you're heading over to. He's talking about how he's going to see his family. And the next thing you know, he goes silent. You hear a gasp. You look over. You see an arrow sticking out of his chest with blood dripping down from it. He falls limp off his horse. Roll initiative. He died. That is a guaranteed margin of failure. You did not protect that guy. But maybe your party was actively searching. Instead of just sitting there chatting with this person, your party is out in the trees, exploring, scouting, doing something that is beyond the standard means. Okay? You have these opportunities to do that. And again, as a DM, you have that opportunity to lay a trap. You want to make it so that there is risk. You want to make it so that failure happens sometimes. Because again, like I said before, if there's no failure, that means there's no successes. If everything is success, nothing is. So how would a DM prepare for an encounter where there's almost a guaranteed margin of failure or non-combative NPC risk? Make a system that increases the level of failure as the encounter progresses, if it's a planned thing that you're gonna build out, or improvise and allow your players room to creatively overcome it. And if your players just go at it like they always do, with fire and flame and sword and shield, that's their choice, and you play accordingly. The main thing is be fair and give the encounter a reason. Don't just have bandits randomly attack. So I hate the term random encounters. Nothing's random. Don't have random encounters. Have encounters. Why did the wyverns attack the party yesterday? Because they're scouting out their new territories. They're expanding their reach. That's why they did it. They were hungry. They wanted to eat. Why did the manticore attack a Dabra Gwyn on Umbridge Hill? It was hungry, and it wanted to feed its family. Why did the orcs fight in the fields in the foothills of Icespire Peak? Because the dragon drove them from their home. They were not warring over territory. Why did orcs and trolls take over the Temple of Shavris? Because they were driven out of their homes. Why did they attack Butterskull Ranch? Because they were driven out of their homes. They were looking for food, place of a shelter, an opportunity to continue their lifestyle. You know, these are the things that establish a living world. Just simply throwing a group of bandits or, you know, a thing of wolves or wyverns at a party, that's not really that fair. But if you give it a reason, if you establish it within the lore of the world that you are building, now it has a reason. And that was one of the things that I had to do yesterday. Why did the wyverns attack? Well, Lenine and Asdalor kind of knew. They had talked about this. You know, with the dragon gone, the predators within the area would be back out and hunt. But they took that risk. It was a calculated risk, and they had to do it. So that's the thing. You need to have a living world. You need to allow for shit to go wrong in your games and your campaigns, because it's from that things learn. I mean, again, I don't think there should ever be a term, the term random encounter. Have it be a meaningful encounter. I mean, build it into something, even if you do use a random table. It's what I did with most of my games. I mean, and sometimes shit does have a reason, and then it just kind of gets pushed off to the side. I don't know if Jared's still watching, but why does he have what's his face? I can't think of Gerard's one companion. The Felluros. Why can't I think of it? Marcus. Why does Gerard have Marcus? That was a random encounter. That was a full random encounter. Why does Gerard have Marcus? Well, because there was a group of orcs that was attacking a wagon. Okay? What was on that wagon? A family. Why was there a family in a wagon? Because they were moving from Lonelywood. Marcus, yeah, the Felluros. You know, what did you guys find in that? Well, you found a small pouch with an orb that was a spellcasting focus and a stuffed animal and some note about how the family was trying to escape all the bad stuff that was going on, and you know, Arl's whole thing. So what happens? You know, Copper animates this small stuffed animal by putting that spellcasting focus into his chest, and it becomes Marcus. That was built from something. It was a random encounter, but I gave it substance. And from that birthed some information that led into lore into the world. Did we play it up when they got to Lonelywood? No, because guess what? Most of us forgot. And if we didn't forget, nobody brought it up. I kind of forgot at points. So, but that's a thing, you know, it happens. Sometimes stuff happens and you just, you know, it just becomes legend and lore. But everything should have a reason. You shouldn't just have a random encounter. You should always have reasoned encounters. So I think that's gonna do it for tonight, because like I said, we're about it's about 1:45 here, so I think with all of that, it's probably where I'm gonna leave it. So, while it was a bit of a sizable conversation, I gotta pull it up. I gotta paste those answers into the Discord. As a DM, you have all the knowledge. With this knowledge, how do you balance your knowledge versus NPC knowledge? More specifically, with those tied to the main storylines, villains, foes, and their minions. How do you balance your knowledge versus NPC knowledge? More specifically, with those tied to the main storylines, villain, foe, big bad, and their. You have to just. I mean, to answer that quickly. I can answer it quickly enough. You have to have them. Have to have it make sense. Something I've said for years in D&D. It needs to make sense. How would a big bad know the makeup of a party and prepare for it if nobody ever gets back to them to tell them what the makeup of the party is? They just don't. And you could argue, well, maybe they have a spy. Okay, cool. Maybe you build in a spy. Give your players the opportunity to stop that spy. Okay? Scrying, for example, requires a wisdom save. Maybe somebody's trying to scry on the party. Okay? But sending doesn't require it. You'd want to have encounters that are challenging, but my curiosity is wanting to have a storyline that explains how the more major foes know enough about the PCs to have abilities that would offer it, rather than... No, and that's exactly it. You need to build in encounters that give big bads, that give the main villains a reason to know about the enemy, or about their enemies, about the players. Okay, don't always have every enemy fight to the death. I mean, that right there is simple. Not every cultist is going to be willing to die for their cause. Some of them are going to run away. Some of them are smart enough to run away and go back to the big bad and say, oh my God, this is what we fought. Most of us died, but I just happened to get away. You know, have a spy, have somebody watching them, okay? Or you do it the way that everything happens. Rumors. A party of adventurers that wanders into town. What's going on, Pokey Niner? You know, what happens whenever a group of players walk into town for the first time? They hear rumors of the goings on around town, okay? In that scenario, one of the rumors that forms the moment the players walk into town is, hey, a group of adventurers just came to this town. Okay, why are they there? Where are they going? How strong are they? Those questions start to spread out. And yeah, you have to think reasonably, you know. Yeah, are they causing trouble? Are these bad guys? That's something that you have to consider. So, you know, one of the ways that you can do it is, again, have some big bads minions encounter the party and have somebody get away, or somebody cast a spell and message the big bad. Oh, we got trouble, boss. There's a group there. They got a dragonborn and an elf. They got a warforged. I don't know what we're gonna do. And then just cut off. Question, do you give opinions on homebrews? I can. You are more than welcome to share a link to your homebrew or paste the text in here if you have a question. So more than welcome. Or you can join the Discord either by going to the link above me or clicking right underneath the stream in the about. There's a big old button that says Discord. And I actually have a homebrew channel in my Discord that you can post that stuff. So currently working on a year of homebrew subclasses for each class. You can choose one of the 4. All right. Gladly offer my opinion. We'll go Bard. I play a Bard all the time. It's my favorite class. All right, so Bard subclass, College of Pages. Around the world, stories are told through ink and incantations. The College of Pages learned how to sculpt these stories and heroic tales. Bard from this college never lacks a quill or pen, allowing them to capture. Lore bards often look to this college as caretakers of history, separated from the world's opinion. So they put their quills. Every story has to begin. Okay, so when you join 3rd level, your hand can influence the writing of history and what is to come. When entering initiative, you can use your reaction to expend and give a bardic inspiration die to a number of creatures up to your remaining inspirations. They can use this immediately as part of your reaction to add to the... Okay, so that's pretty cool. Writing prowess. When you join this college at 3rd level, you gain the ability to look into others' motives and to write the stories behind these motives. You learn the message cantrip. Awesome, which doesn't count against the cantrips you know. You also gain proficiency in calligrapher skills and can use them as a spellcasting focus. When using them, you can replace any vocal component with a somatic one. That's cool. You must still provide a vocal component if somatic is already required. Okay. College Pages Bard also receives a magical book. It is enchanted with magic related to your message cantrip. Using the message cantrip, you can write on the separate pages remotely so long as the pages are within 1 mile of you. You can always have a number of pages removed from the book equal to your proficiency bonus. This book is enchanted with a magic related to your message cantrip. Using the message cantrip, you can... Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. I misread that. Gotcha. Okay. So you can take out pages of the book and still write on them from a distance. So wait, are you taking out pages from the book and writing on those and they appear in your book? Or what exactly is that? Both. At higher bard levels, the range increases. At 8th level, you can write on a page that is anywhere. Okay, so you can write in the book and it appears on the pages, and then you can write out of the book on the pages and it shows up in the book. I was gonna say, very much like the book that I created. So Poke9er, I'm gonna share with you something that you might be interested in. Let me pull it up here. Take me a quick second. Here we go. Oops. So, yeah, very coincidental. So this is a book that I actually made that a map maker by the name of Morvold Press actually made art for. But this is the Book of Scribing. And what it is a book that when you grab the spine of it, so like with this book, if you grabbed the spine, you can split it in half, creating 2 identical copies, and whatever you write in one book appears in the other. So just like the picture is showing. So I will share with you this information. Well, I guess I couldn't share it on here because this is on his Patreon. So, but I will do this to at least give you the text. There you go. And that is the Book of Scribing. I actually designed this particular book for communication just across distances, where one person would have one and the other person would have someone else would have the other, and they could message back and forth, much like your class ability. So possibly a College of Pages bard, they might have the Book of Scribing. That might be, something that it might be the book that they have. So that would be something. Also, fun fact, seeing you can write a somatic component on a piece of paper, they can then cast... Huh. Interesting. Huh, okay. Interesting. All right, so at 6th level, you've learned to shift and twist reality to affect the hearts of those who communicate with you. You can use an action to enchant a creature that you can see within 30 feet. They make a wisdom save against your spell save DC. You can also choose to expend and roll a bardic inspiration when using this feature. If you do, the creature must... Okay, so that's pretty standard. If they fail, they suffer one of 2 magical effects of your choice. You must concentrate on it. Okay, cool. So they become frightened or they become charmed. So frightened creature drops whatever it's holding and must take the dash action to move away from you. Okay, so it's just, yeah, basic frightened. Charmed refers to you, sees you as friendly. If you are another friendly creature, okay, so, all right. So you can charm or frighten them. And on to capstones. At 14th level, as an action, you can choose a number of willing creatures equal to your charisma mod to be your muses. For the next hour, as long as you and a muse are within sight of each other, you both have advantage on all charisma and wisdom saving throws. When you enter initiative, the muses also gain a bardic inspiration without expending yours. This can be done once per long rest. Wow. Okay, I'm going to get back to that. I want to see the other 14th level ability. Your words can influence people to shape their destinies in the moment. When a character rolls one of your bardic inspiration die before knowing if it succeeds or fails, you can use your reaction to have it roll the maximum amount. And that's once per long or short rest. Okay. All right, so all in all, I kind of love this. I love the idea of a storytelling bard that is like out there writing the stories and like changing and influencing the story as they are going along. I love this. Set the scene. This is pretty cool. You know, being able to offer up that buff to initiative to get you guys further ahead. That's pretty badass. Writing prowess. Obviously, I have a soft spot for this because of, you know, the item Book of Scribing. So love that. You said seeing you can write a somatic component on a piece of paper, they can cast stuff. Oh, I see what you mean. Because you can replace any vocal with a somatic one. Huh. So, I guess if that's what you're saying, you're essentially able to take anything that is just verbal or just somatic and make it a spell scroll. If what you're saying, if I'm gathering what you're saying. All right. Okay, so I want this one just to be somatic. Oh wait, actually we need to, we're gonna have to take away material. Yeah, we just need components. There they are. Okay, I just couldn't find them. All right, so none of those except somatic. Okay, so this is the only one that's just somatic. Okay. So now we want just the ones that are only verbal. That's not right. Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, I think, oh, I see why. You can change verbal spells to somatic, so it only... Oh, okay. Just verbal, not somatic. Okay, so all of these spells right here, 62 spells that you could essentially link to a piece of paper. Damn. If that's the effect that your rules is intending, you gain proficiency and can use them as a spellcasting focus. When using the calligrapher's tools as a spellcasting focus, you can replace any vocal components with a somatic one. You must still provide a vocal component if somatic. So if you can write somatic components on a piece of paper. I mean, I'm trying to grasp the where within this it's allowing that. Because, I mean, I guess... Because technically speaking, if I were to take... Sorry, you changed the verbal kinetic to become a somatic one. Right. So let's say I want to cast command. So command is only verbal, and I'm changing it to be somatic. So my somatic aspect is... Somatic aspects are anything that you are using your hands with. So that is writing it on a piece of paper. So the only thing that I would be careful with this is to not confuse this with something like a spell scroll. So for example, let's say command, for example, a spell scroll would be would really be the thing to look into. So being able to create a first level spell scroll with just a spell slot, that could be an ability that's a part of this. Like, you could have something within here. I don't necessarily know if I would... I would put a limit on it. Maybe something like, as an action, yeah, maybe it's 6th level. You could maybe do it as, like, that you could have a number of these prepared equal to, say, your charisma modifier or your proficiency bonus, or the number of, I can't remember how many bardic inspirations a bard gets over time. Right, just changes. Hold on, where's becomes, how many uses do you get? You use, oh, it's just equal to your charisma modifier, so it's the same thing. So okay, cool. So yeah, I would say something that you could do would be to you know, as an ability, or sorry, not as an ability, as an action, you can you can create a spell scroll for any spell that only has a verbal or only has a somatic component, and you can have a number of these scrolls equal to your charisma modifier. Essentially, kind of, you know, because it goes in line with this being the College of Pages. You are able to write a spell onto a piece of paper, and then you are using a spell slot for that. So again, let's go back to command. Let's just say you write, you use your spell slot, you expend a spell slot, you write the spell onto this piece of paper, and then you roll it up. And then as an action, anybody can use this piece of paper to cast that spell using your ability score modifiers. So for example, if it was a compelled duel spell, it would be against your wisdom save. It would be against the bard's wisdom save, not the barbarian, who might not have a, you know, they might not have a DC to go off of. So I don't know where you could really put that in here. I mean, this right here is really good. You learn message and you can use calligrapher's tools as your spellcasting focus. That's great. The book is fine. If it was up to me personally, what I would do is I would probably take, and again, this is only me because of the book of scribing that I already had. I would probably not have this and turn this ability into the, you can create a number of spell scrolls equal to your charisma modifier and a like ability. I guess, how would I word that? As an action, you can expend, or actually we'll do it this way. As an action, you can cast a spell onto a piece of paper and store the spell similar to a spell scroll. You can have a number of these scrolls equal to your charisma modifier, and okay, and then a creature can, what's up, Ms. Roy? How you doing? Thanks for coming by. Ms. Raid, nice. You can have a number of these scrolls equal to your charisma modifier, and then we'll say you, or just say a creature. A creature can use an action to cast the spell stored, or we'll say written, on this page using your spell casting abilities. Yeah, there we go. So again, if it was up to me, like I said, I already have vested interest in the Book of Scribing, so that's a thing, but I would probably do something like this. As an action, you can cast a spell onto the piece of paper and store the spell similar to a spell scroll. You can have a number of these scrolls equal to your charisma modifier, and a creature can use an action to cast the spell written on the page using your spell casting abilities. This way, it gives credence to using this ability. Like, that would open you up to, you know, a number of spells. Like, if we... I mean, what we got, verbal alone is 62, and then somatic alone is 20. So looking at 82 spells that you could cast into these and have, I mean, you figure at 6th level, I mean, actually at 3rd level, if you have this, you would maybe have a 3 or a 4 in your charisma at that time. So to be able to, like, you know, store a spell, and that's kind of what you're doing. It's kind of like the Ring of Spell Storing, where you can cast a spell into it and then use it at any point, because this is kind of the whole design. You know, it's, you can cast a spell into it and then it can be cast, you know, by someone else. So you could use this, or someone else could. Like I said, if it was the command spell, or the compelled duel, give that to your barbarian, and you know, you write it down on a piece of paper, and you're like, here you go, read this. have the barbarian cast compelled duel, and yeah, going up in words. I mean, that's a those would be powerful little scrolls that you would have there, and yeah. I would say that would be a cool ability. I mean, overall, I love the class. The subclass is really sick, and I like the design of it. Plot twist is pretty nice, you know, getting that, getting to charm or frighten somebody. I mean, charm is always a good skill to use. So something I always lean into if I'm playing a character. Get somebody out of combat, you flip the action economy in your direction, so that's always something that is a good thing. And oh Jesus Christ, why did that open? As for Muse of Inspiration, this is hella strong. I mean, at 14th level, you should have at least a 5 in your charisma modifier. So that's going to be probably your entire party. And to be within sight of one another is already, like, depending on the scenario, that's just all the time. And being able to give them a free bardic inspiration, the advantage between you and the muse, right? But you're saying that you can choose a number of willing creatures equal to your charisma modifier to be your muses. At that point, you should have a 5 in your charisma mod. So for the next hour, as long as you and a muse are within sight of one another, I would put my character would have a flashing bulb on their head, drawing attention to them, being like, look at me, like, look at me. We are going to get through this. You know, what's that? Wisdom saves to avoid frightened and charmed and being turned and madness. You know, look at me. Focus on the bard, folks. You know, Paladin's here to buff us, but focus on the bard. This is I mean, and hey, it's 14th level. I think 14th level should be powerful abilities. So, you know, I think that at 14th level, you know, this is something where you have started to cross that threshold from, you know, heroes of the realm to heroes of the world. So you should have that. If you if you wanted to nerf it a little, I would say the only change that I would make if you wanted to nerf it in any way, shape, or form, leave it for, maybe reduce the time to 10 minutes. You could also make it for the bard, they only require sight on one muse. For the others, right? Well, and that's it. Yeah, as long as the bard's within sight of everybody, that's fine. My question is, how far within raw are we saying sight on the bard? Because in my opinion, when bards get access to major image and can cast an illusion of themselves within 120 feet, my friend, that guy is going right next to the enemy. Major illusion next to the enemy who is trying to impose wisdom saves. You don't know that's not me. That's a major image, my friend. That guy is singing and dancing and even making smells. Like I said, if you wanted to limit it or wanted to alter this in any way, I would say change the distance to creatures of your choice within 60 feet that can see or hear you. Yeah, I would say 60 feet at that point would probably be a good range. Even though, like, that is generally going to cover most maps. If you really wanted to limit it, 30. But I would say for the next 10 minutes, all creatures of your choice within 60 feet that can see or hear you have advantage on all charisma and wisdom saves. Or you both have advantage on all charisma and wisdom saves. I would say that, you know, or, well, I guess you wouldn't need creatures of your choice, actually, because that's already up here. So, you know, for the next 10 minutes, all muses within 60 feet of you that can see or hear you, you both have advantage on all charisma and wisdom saves. Yeah, that might, again, I think at 14th level, you should start having powerful abilities at that point. You know, that's where you're starting to step into Heroes of the World, tier play, and, you know, that's where you should have stuff like that. And then what was that other one? Words to build upon. When a player rolls one of your bardic inspiration die, you can use your reaction to have it roll the maximum. Yeah, I think that's fine. So once per long or short rest, yeah. And I mean, oh, that's the other thing. You know, this is also only once per long rest, so it's not a huge deal that it is powerful. You know, you are making it fairly limited with the once per long rest. So again, I think it's good. I mean, I think it's well done. You know, and hey, you know, you're more than welcome to use that book of scribing if it gives you any inspiration, or if it works within, you know, within any setting that you might be using. So more power to you to use that if you want. So I love whenever I'm able to share that stuff out to the world. Hell yeah. Well, I think with that, I'm probably going to go ahead and end the stream here. But real quick before I go, no problem, man. Yeah, anytime. Hey, and I was just about to say, if you are interested, if you have more homebrews, I mean, you said that you had 4 classes that you've worked on, I would be very interested in hearing about them. So if you want, I'm going to drop a link here in the chat for my Discord. We have a homebrew channel over there, and if you want to post that stuff, there's a lot of people, I mean, there's a good amount of people in there that play D&D and Pathfinder. You might, you get some eyes on it, and we can always spread it around. So if you want to join that, there's the link, and that goes to everyone. You know, I really appreciate it if you guys hang out and come by, and you know, it's always a good time over there in Kel's Corner. Greatest show on Earth, Bard. Oh God. The Greatest Showman. I should watch that. But again, as always, thank you everybody that hung out tonight. It's always a fun time to hang out and just listen to some chilled music, listen to some tavern songs, and hang out, talk about D&D, and yeah, I love doing these streams, especially on Monday nights, you know, whenever it's just more loose and not necessarily something that's super rigid that we can kind of work around. I told you I want a bard who makes an... I know. Believe me, I have notes. I'm working. Well, it's kind of like the Dirge bard. Where was that? That was my homebrew creations. Dirge, my very first one that I ever put in. There you go. Bards that enter the College of Dirge become composers of sonorous laments for the dead and elaborate requiems for those lost yet long remembered. With their skills, their skills with their instruments bring the dead back to hear the music and heed their command, playing symphonies that please both the living and the dead. I didn't make this. I just want to make that clear. I just add shit to D&D Beyond that I find interesting 9 times out of 10. So I love this one. You know, you learn a necromancy cantrip, gain resistance to necrotic damage, and advantage on saves against being frightened. You're able to animate dead, and yeah, so undead are immune from being turned. So always got lots of shit going on around here. So like I said, if you are having fun here, if you want to hang out with us some more, join the Discord. Links above me, or you can go to the About tab below me and click the Discord button. Lots of good folks over there hanging out. If you want to hang out with me some more here on the stream, I stream Monday nights with random D&D whatnots. I stream Thursday nights with mine should be on D&D Beyond if you ever want to try. Ooh, I might add that. I will take you up on that. Stream on Thursdays, video games, the first 15 show, and then mostly all Sundays when I stream my D&D game. So if you are at all interested in that, hang out here, give us a follow, and we will have some fun. But it is 12:30 where I'm at, and I gotta get some sleep. So thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. Again, I always appreciate it. And thank you so much for all the new folks that came in. Pokey9erf with your awesome subclass. Believe me, that's going to be something I'm going to look into some more. Ms. Roy, thank you for raiding with your friend. Don't know how to pronounce their name, so I'm not going to try and butcher that. And as always, Stacy, Jared, Glenn, Steve, all of you that were in here earlier, and Nacho. Nacho was also here. So, and Zingy was also here. Man, we had a lot of people coming by tonight. So thank you everybody who joined me. I will see you guys next time. I'll see you on Thursday if I don't see you before then. So you all have a good night. I'll see you later. Peace out.